Okay, we're live. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 130 something, 133. And I initially titled it Post Thanksgiving, but I think we have a good episode for you. We're going to start with a little news, and then some people have been asking, like, how did you start all this stuff with podcasting and everything else? And we'll go through what we did and everything else, because yeah, there's news, but we're in this happy time where you just finished Thanksgiving and you're going into the holidays, and you're playing with all your Internet of things and everything else. So we didn't want to like really scare you. So we have a light and fluffy episode going into the holidays. And we'll start with Tom and asking him, how was his Thanksgiving?
It was amazing. So I bought the new Doom game, which I'm a classic Doom kind of guy. I'm thinking, yeah, it's probably not going to be so good. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Now, definitely for mature audiences. Do not give this to your children. But if you're looking for a great shooter, that's the one to get.
So the original Doom can now be played on the Apple Touch Bar. Did you see that?
I did. That's pretty crazy.
I mean, maybe I'll run Crisis next.
We can only hope.
I guess Doom is one of those things they try to emulate on everything, just like Windows 95 on my TI 89 calculator, or trying to get Android Nougat on your G1. It's one of those things that you try to put Doom on everything.
Oh, yeah. I remember the big obsession with the iPod video running Doom. I'm like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever, until I realized that you can't really play Doom too effectively with the iPod video.
Well, remember what Apple was it? It was either Sony or Apple. The Onion did an article. It was like the Sony click wheel or the Apple click wheel. It's just a wheel. It does nothing.
Oh man, they should have released that. Apple should have taken that and made a product out of it. It would have sold like hotcakes.
They did make an iPod Shuffle with no buttons. That you did the voiceover. So. Look, the Onion, as funny as it is, have had actual articles. They once talked about a 5-blade shaver, and now we have a 5-blade vibrating shaver. So, okay, so let's start. Let's start with the news. So, I guess you want to talk about Hooligan?
Yeah, we can talk about Hooligan.
Well,
so
go ahead.
I don't get what the big, huge deal is about Hooligan. You know, you install a third-party app, and it does bad things to your phone. Yeah, that's what happens. You install something not from the Play Store. Yeah, that's why we tell people, hey, that unknown sources checkbox, leave that turned off. This is why it's turned off.
And the problem is that Android gives you that choice. So people tend to uncheck that in a spear phishing attempt or something else, and then they rail on Android for being insecure. If you're running an old phone, I mean, if you read this, you had to be running gingerbread, honeycomb, ice cream sandwich, jelly bean, not even K, L, M, or N. So you had to be running basically a 4 or 5-year-old phone with that uninstalled, and then you had to download these apps. And I'm thinking to myself, who's doing that?
Yeah, unfortunately, and from what it looks like from the base of infection, most of the phones hit are, Android devices, cheap Android devices in kind of, lower GDP countries, countries without a big booming tech economy. You buy the cheapest smartphone you can to do your work and, live your daily life. And, most of these phones that are sold, outside the US and, outside first world nations, not to shame anyone, do not have the Google Play Store or Google Apps loaded on them. So they use some sort of third-party app store, or just leave the phone without one and say, uncheck unknown sources and have at it, because this is all you get.
I mean, look, I guess I don't know how it is to be in a third world country where just getting any type of phone is good. And I'm sure they have all these knockoffs where they do things like this, but I don't see why you can't buy, let's say, an old Nexus 4. I mean, I don't know how much Nexus 4s go for, and at least use that. It's completely unsupported, but at least it has the Play Store, and at least it's on M, I guess. JKL. It's on Lollipop, or at least Marshmallow.
Yeah.
So
it's not a bad idea, but I mean, you have to. We know what the Nexus phone is, right? Because we're tech people. We love the Nexus devices, but it's really a really shoehorned device, pegged squarely in the market of people who know what tech they want. For someone going into their mobile phone shop, they're going to buy the first thing that's got the $0 with the 2-year contract price tag attached to it.
Look, we look at it here, and the only app store that makes sense as of this moment, maybe, is the Amazon App Store. If you bought a Kindle Fire for whatever they have, $50, which is a really awesome device, Amazon figured out a way how to make Android their own, which they've done, which is a great case study. But if even on the phone they say, we want you to install this unknown sources, they tell you do this once, they even go back and tell you how to turn it back on just for that one device. Okay, but I don't know how you go with somebody on the internet said to uncheck this box and to do this and to do that and get infected. And to me, it boggles my mind. But I guess in the third world or developing countries, you have these cheap phones that are stealing Android or not using, they're using AOSP, and they don't have an app store of their own.
Yeah, it's really kind of, it's really hurtful to be in that environment. Luckily, loading the Amazon App Store onto a phone that doesn't have it, it's really easy. Loading the Play Store, not so much, because Google really doesn't want you to do it, because OEMs have to pay to get the with Google logo branded on their phone and get the Play Store and Google Play services and all that great stuff. With Amazon, they just want people in the store, so they'll let you go and download that. But one other thing to mention is that this malware was found in paid apps that you could download for free from pirated APK stores. So if you're downloading paid apps just to not pay for them, you're getting a little more than you bargained for. So
it goes back.
Don't do that. I mean, apps aren't really expensive.
I mean, it's if they're not in the Google Play Store, there's probably a reason why. And you should think about that. Why isn't this in the Google Play Store, which does do the scanning for viruses and tries its best? Like, you've never heard, oh, Samsung Galaxy S7 has this virus from the Google Play Store. Like, it happens, just like the iPhone has a text message bug or whatever it is. But generally those get fixed. All these hacking things end up being because somebody installed third-party app from somewhere or downloaded a fake app on the App Store with 25 downloads when it should have had 25 million downloads. And they're doing something just by not knowing what they're doing. So stick to the App Store, stick to apps that have lots of downloads and lots of reviews. And I guess go from there.
Yeah, it's hard to hurt yourself if you're sticking to known sources. But that's really about it for that.
And if you have it, I don't know what the remedy is. I guess it's to because it's a rootkit. You have to like reinstall everything and go from there.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Okay, I guess the next story we have, and we're going through these quickly, is the German intelligence. Germany is trying to break WhatsApp encryption. And from the article, basically they're saying they're going to try, but they don't see any that they think they're going to be ineffective at it.
I would feel like my gut knee-jerk reaction says, how dare they? But, you get to thinking about this, and it's a great thing. You can be guaranteed that the NSA is also trying to break this, that GCHQ is trying to break signal encryption. I think the more people hammering on the signal-style double ratchet encryption algorithm, the signal protocol, the better. Because, if the government can break into it, we'll find out eventually when there's, a court case where they cracked the encryption and got all the guy's data. But, at that point, we can fix and patch and make sure we do our due diligence to keep things running the way they're supposed to. I mean, they're welcome to try. I think it's a wasted effort, personally. I mean, the Signal protocol has passed every audit it's been involved in with flying colors. But the more the merrier.
Look, it's their job. Their job, the government's job, is to try and break these encryption schemes, and our job is to be smarter than them. And yes, it's a cat and mouse game, but at least, I don't know. At least, look, Signal's going to take everything. They're going to be listening to this. They're going to be doing this because right now, that's all there is. Unless you want to deal with PGP and everything else, which, by the way, PGP on Mac OS Sierra doesn't exist. Not yet, at least. So you have to find another way to encrypt things. And it looks like it's Signal or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger on the private browsing or any of those using Signal.
Yeah, encryption options, good encryption options are few and far between today, believe it or not, given the influx of, quote, security apps, unquote. But, stick to WhatsApp, stick to Signal.
We've been hearing on a tangential note that the new president-elect is going to destroy encryption. I don't know how true that is. But let's say it completely is. It's put on the conspiracy theory hat. All the encryption's going away. Everything's going to be monitored. Now is a good time, if any. You're going into the holidays. You may have some time off in a couple weeks. You may want to think of how do we just start looking at different types of encryption. Download Signal. What do you have to lose? Download WhatsApp. Try telling a friend about Signal. Try to be a little more. I mean, we're going to do a privacy audit as probably our last episode of the year again. Just maybe now is the time just to start thinking, just in case, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen, and you can go from there.
And a fun exercise for the podcast listeners. Anytime you read an article about some government official somewhere trying to ban encryption or outlaw encryption or destroy encryption, replace the word encryption with long division and see how funny that article is, because it's basically the same thing. You're just trying to destroy math.
And remember, these companies, like, why isn't the Pirate Bay shut down? Because it's the server in the cloud. You just move your cloud. And you just get a big fan and you just push it to the next country that allows it, or just put it in the middle of the ocean and just let it go from there. So, which leads us into Europe. And I don't know what the UK law is, but apparently the new UK law is basically going to strips a lot of UK citizens. It's the most severe surveillance law in, I guess, Europe.
Yeah, it makes fascist dictatorship look like kids playing outside. It's the Snoopers Charter, as it's called, is one of the most invasive, just privacy banning and destroying bills out there. The Patriot Act and the American versions of these laws has got absolutely nothing on Snoopers Charter. So, if you're in the UK. There is no better time to hop on the Signal or WhatsApp bandwagon.
And I mean, they're saying, well, maybe we'll have a court or whatever. Look, I've been to the UK and I've seen the signs. We're monitoring everything, and I don't necessarily have a problem in public with cameras and all this other stuff, but in private, my private communication, we keep on talking about this, is that let's keep the security to ourselves. And I actually have a good story. My colleague was teaching in a class. He was giving an assignment where they had maybe it was a test. I think it was a quiz. And at the end of the period, the bell rang, all the kids left. Then I come in. One of my students finds a phone. I think it was one of the new big phones. No passcode, no PIN. We turn it on. We swipe up to unlock. And what do we see? We see the answers to the quiz questions. Because all we're trying to do is find out whose phone it is. I think it was a Samsung Galaxy 7, and it was like, it would be bad if the person just like lost their phone. So what we try to do is we try to figure out who it is. I'm not looking at their Snapchat. I'm just unlocking it and hoping that there's something there that can tell me what it is. And most of the time people have PIN codes, which is awesome. This kid didn't. And I don't know what my colleague did, but it's like, you just got caught. because you didn't use the emergency function on Android, or you didn't have or you didn't have like that iPhone app that puts a call this number if found or anything like that. You just let it go and hope that nothing bad happens.
Yeah, that's just poor OPSEC right there. Oh man.
But we found out this, I think, our last story. If you want to break into somebody's phone, you know how you do it? It's really easy.
You don't break in at all.
You just ask them, just forcefully. You mug them, which apparently in the UK, that's what they're doing. They're asking, the police are mugging the suspects on their phone. Like while they're talking, they're just grabbing their phone out of their hand, and now it's unlocked.
Which, I mean, you know, on one hand, okay, that's kind of mean, right? That's not nice. It's really cheap detective work, all things considered. But on the other hand, it's really effective. It's the most effective way to beat mobile device encryption, or really any device encryption, is just to take it while the person's using it and run really fast. Now, I am not familiar with UK law. I don't know how legal it is for a cop to mug someone and take their phone. But from a security perspective, this absolutely gets around the entire encryption issue. If you can just take it from the guy when it's unlocked, you've got it.
I mean, you do. I watch a lot of Scorpion, which, by the way, is a comedy. Don't think of it as the Cybers. It is a comedy. It's a comedy where really smart people solve crimes, but it's funny again. And when they need a car, they just hold up a Department of Homeland Security and say, DHS are commandeering this car. I don't know how true I don't know if you could just do that, but they do.
Not unless it's a Jeep.
Yeah, it's always an SUV. It's never like some Ford Pinto.
Oh no! When you're commandeering a car remotely, you have to commandeer the right car. This is why I drive a very low key car, because mine's not going to get commandeered. The Corvette next to me will.
Look, I have a minivan, so I mean, unless you want to watch movies in the back seat.
Oh, that's what I'm going to commandeer.
I mean, you can seat 7 comfortably. I mean, we can go from there. So before we get into our main topic, I just want to talk about a commercial I saw. So there was a commercial talking about Internet of Things on Sunday during the Patriots game. And it was an Amazon commercial for their Echo. And I'm not going to say the female's name, but let's just say the actors were, and they said, "Hey, Echo, call me an Uber." And then it was like a 15-second commercial. So they did a second one. "Hey, Echo, order me some flowers." And think I was not at my house, but I knew my Echo would definitely pick that up, and I would have an Uber and some flowers coming to my house, which begs the question. This is really hard now. If you're trying to advertise how easy it is, I don't know how the advertisers do it.
Well, there is. I'm really surprised Amazon hasn't deployed this yet, because there's tech out there where you can send either ultrasonic or subsonic sounds through standard television speakers that electronics can hear, but humans won't be able to hear. And you can use that to prompt. So if you do like a prompt code at the start of your message that basically says ignore commands for 15 seconds, and then you make sure you rotate that code and give them the expiration date, so you can't just get DDoSed by some TV show, or I guess DOSed by some TV show. Then you can have your commercial where they say her name without setting the thing off. The tech exists; they can do it.
It was just, look, maybe they did it. I was at my parents' house, and I was just like, this is crazy. So I don't know. Anyway, with 10 minutes left, one of our security people, one of our people in our group said, we're looking for topics, because that's always what we're looking for. And if you're in the security group, we always wish for more topics. So if you have something, let us know. And he said, well, can you talk about the show? Like, how did you guys meet and all this other stuff? And we've never done it. So we figured, you know what? We have 10 minutes. Let's go for it.
So I am actually a cyber decker from 30 years in the future. In the future, the world is basically destroyed thanks to the Internet of Things taking over our lives. But on the bright side, all cars have neon trim, and leather trench coats are very fashionable.
Well, that's
also credits have taken over Bitcoins. We just call Bitcoin credit. There was a big rename thing, and we put them on sticks, so come cred sticks, and that's how currency works. It's really cool.
By the way, in making America great again, the cost of the Bitcoins have shot up in value. They're like $700-800 now.
I'm a bit happy about that.
So
I mean, really sad about other things, but a bit happy about Bitcoin.
My buddy said, my son wants to buy Bitcoin. I said, well, whatever you buy, just be prepared to lose it all. Because your security has to be really tight when you're dealing with Bitcoin. Because now you're telling people, I have money. So anyway, I'll talk about In30 first, and then then we'll talk about how we got the security thing. So In30 was this idea between you've heard it with Justin and my other friend Harry, and we wanted to talk a tech podcast. The problem was that was the big thing. Everyone was doing tech. And who are we, these three guys who know? I mean, we knew a lot about tech, but we weren't in the know. But one of the things we said is we want to keep it short because we all have lives, and going 2 hours once a week is a lot. So we figured out, let's do 30 minutes. And then I said, well, I'm also interested in all these other things. And we said, well, let's create a network for it. Because that was also the new thing to do. Let's create these computer networks, these podcast networks. And I met Tom a couple of years before at Google I/O, and Tom was into security, and we were talking. I said, well, you do your podcast. I think you were doing your gaming podcast at the time.
Yeah.
So, well, can we do this for 30 minutes? And we said, sure. And Tom and I are good because we're always really flexible with the time, because that's what you have to do when you're doing a podcast. Either you have to set a set time, but also be very flexible. And both of us do have jobs, so we always have to rush around jobs. And with me, I have a 3-week-old at this point, so I have now a second kid that has to be fed and put to sleep and everything else. So as long as you're flexible, all of it will work.
I mean, I have 2 rabbits that occasionally I have to look at and sometimes feed, and that's just crazy busy.
So I mean, all these things, like life gets in the way and everything else. In fact, tomorrow I'm actually doing a how to podcast thing at the public library. So we were going to record also tomorrow because we're behind a week, and now we're gonna have to push that because I'm doing something else, and then something else comes, and then those pesky holidays come in where you have to be with your family and everything else. So if you're gonna start a podcast, the key thing here is be flexible.
Yeah, that's always the thing, and something will always come up. There will always be, some sort of timing conflict, or a work emergency, or a kid gets sick, and being able to shift that time around is really helpful. So if you're going to start a podcast, try to carve out nice chunks in your schedule where you can fit stuff in.
I mean, then you also need a topic, and we figured security, because security is one of those things that constantly change, and there's always something. And yes, we've had those podcast episodes where we've had literally nothing to talk about, and we're scraping at the bottom, because when we started, we said we wanted security for the normal person. We didn't want to get into exactly how Diffie-Hellman worked or all these things that put people to sleep. We wanted people in half an hour to get a dose of security that they can take with them to work or wherever and understand what's going on.
Yeah, there are tons of podcasts out there that are really great, in-depth technical resources for technical people. And those are great. I listen to those all the time. We both listen to those podcasts all the time. They're fantastic. But we looked at, I hate using this. I sound like a business guy. We looked at the podcast market, right? And we said, okay, in the security realm, what's missing? And that's, a podcast that my mom can listen to and take something away from it.
One of the things I think that Serial brought, so if you don't know what Serial is, it was basically the catalyst to jumpstart podcasting. It was this thing, I think it was hosted by NPR, where it was episodic. Basically, it was a radio show that was split into 10 or 11 parts, and it was scripted and everything else. But a lot of people said, I got into podcasting by listening to Serial, And that was a huge like net positive for everybody, because now people were listening to it and they were looking for other things. So the podcast apps are featuring more and more and more, which helped. And now you can say, hey, download this podcast, because now podcast is a word that people actually know.
Yeah, I remember 10 or more years ago, podcasting was this really weird thing where, people would ask you, well, do you have to have an iPod, or can I use my SanDisk MP3 player? No, it's just a term. It's, you download MP3 files and, they come out weekly. So you have a subscription, like, oh, well, I don't want to pay for anything. No, it just means that you get them when they come out automatically. And it was this whole big thing. There was terminology, and we used to use dedicated podcatchers. There weren't these giant libraries around. There were a couple places on the internet that tried to collate podcasts together, but they weren't very great, and there was a lot of trash in there.
So iTunes started it, where they had this whole dedicated section. And to be honest, I mean, I guess I can look through the stats and figure out where most people get it from. But because they're friends of the show, the people from Pocketcasts, they featured us. We got them really early on with an issue with Amazon and their free app of the day and everything else. And you want a podcast app for your phone? I think they even have it for a computer. Pocketcast does it all. And I've been recommending that. I've told people, pay the money. It's worth it. They have the double speed, all the features that you want in a podcatcher, even stuff you don't know. And they have their own directory that we are in. We've been featured there. We can go from there. But that's one of the things that really help. The federation. Google Play now has podcasts. Spotify has podcasts. Microsoft, when Zune was a thing, had podcasts. All these places now have it, and we've been trying as they've coming up to get into them.
Hey, we do have some other questions here, kind of more personal stuff, and I think we could answer these pretty quickly. So, we're both married. You've got kids. I've got rabbits. Yep. Totally the same thing. Same levels of responsibility entirely. There's no difference at all.
The difference is with kids, and somebody once told me, the difference between dogs and kids is kids you can take with you everywhere. And while people are mad that they cry, they get it.
That's a good way to put that. Cat or dog person? I'm a dog person, but I have rabbits, so
I mean, I'm allergic to cats, so that makes me a dog person.
Yeah, so dog person by default. Apple or Android? We're both on Android. The more I read about Android security features, and that was in like bold, underlined, and quoted, the more I am really, really tempted to move over to the dark side. I don't want to. I really don't want to, but I'm quickly learning that the iPhone is just going to be the better platform.
I had an iPhone 3G. I did. I waited online, a very long line, multiple days. I have that. And I went to Android with the Droid X. And I've been pretty good about picking the phones with the best updates. And for me, I tell everyone, if you just want something that works, go iPhone. If you're willing to go learn a little bit, go Android. But if you're going to go on a discount plan and pay $25, or you're going to pay $750, just get an iPhone. It works, and everyone else has one.
Let's see here. Job-wise, I am a terminal junkie. My technical job title is Linux sysadmin. So I set up, configure, secure, put together stuff, work with vendors. It's a whole lot of stuff. I program, I do networking, I do Linux stuff. Basically, if it has anything to do with tech, especially stuff with sort of a Unix slant to it, I'm that guy, and I get shoved into that role. I've been doing general IT stuff forever. This most recent company has put me squarely in a Linux role instead of a Windows role, which is just glorious beyond belief.
So I am, I guess, what they call an education engineer. I'm a public school teacher. I teach all programming all day, and I try to teach. And while I teach students Java, I want to tell them that, you know what, there's more than just programming. And we say this now while we're in the hour of code week. I don't want everyone to program for an hour. I want them to be able in that hour to spell Linux, to learn what the command line is, to go past what Facebook is, to learn why SMS is horrible, and to install two-factor authentication. I think you can do all of that in 1 hour.
Sort of related. How did we end up in the industry? So as far as me in security, this isn't really a secret. And frankly, I tell people it's the best thing I ever did. I hacked my high school, and then I wasn't very good at it because I did get caught, and then subsequently got thrown out and then brought back the next year. But that's how I got into security, is by hacking stuff. And over the summer, well, my extended 9-month summer, I actually worked with a lot of area companies because I did get on the news. It was a small town. It was kind of a big deal to them because they were used to corn and I liked computers because I was from the city. But I basically ended up working with a lot of companies to revamp their IT, to secure their stuff, to set up networking, get new systems put in place. And I made a whole bunch of money as a 16-year-old kid who just got kicked out of school. And I was like, maybe I should do this security thing because it's fun, I'm good at it, and there's a lot of money. So I've always used tech. I think I got my first computer at age 3, maybe 4. So I've always been kind of the nerdy guy with the laptop.
IBM Optiva 386.
I had the AT&T Safari.
It didn't have more than 64K of RAM because that's all you needed.
Exactly. Yeah, no, nothing. Even this laptop only has 64K of RAM.
So, I mean, I too got caught hacking my high school, except I didn't actually hack. Like I said, you want something, just ask really nicely and you'll probably get it. The better you are at asking nicely, the more likely you are to get it. I went to college and I said, I want to do computer science, realized I really, really didn't like programming, and decided, you know what, there's a lot of other stuff. My dad said, why don't you try teaching? So I tried teaching, and then I learned how insecure everything else was. So I try my best to help secure those things. So my job is to teach students Java, but I also tell them, hey, look, the best way to look at things is from a security standpoint, because if this coding stuff doesn't work out, there's lots of money in learning how to be secure.
Yeah. We do have a couple more questions. I know we are slightly over.
Might as well just
all right. Up. Okay, so the equipment and software and stuff we use for the podcast, I've got a Blue Snowball USB microphone. It's ancient in terms of technology, but it works. I just plug it in and it goes. You've got a really nice microphone, and I forget what it is.
I have an audio tech. Well, I first had a Blue professional Snowball the Yeti Pro, and it didn't work with Hangouts and Blue whatever. So I ended up getting an Audio Technica, I think A2020, and for $100, it's awesome. But anything is better than just talking straight into your computer. So your $30 microphone sounds, I don't want to say it doesn't sound as good as mine, but you really can't tell the difference.
Yeah, as long as you go out and you buy something more than your embedded laptop mic or one of the earbud mics, you're going to be fine. As far as software, our site has got WordPress. We keep that updated because WordPress. And to mash up all the audio, we use Audacity. So we both independently record our audio streams. I send them over, and then you kindly mash them up, smush them into an MP3, and then publish that for everyone to take in.
And look, we could absolutely do a better job with audio quality. We can get pop filters and stands and do acoustics in the room and everything else. But like we said, we're both working people, and we are really good at starting and ending on time. But every once in a while, there's a little bit of a hiccup, and we say deal with it. And I know that that's the wrong answer, but to fix that would take a lot of time and effort.
And money.
Yeah, you have to run Adobe Edition and everything else, and it's just not worth it. So that's our trade-off.
Let's see. We've got a couple more here. Backup schemes. I basically follow my own backup advice. I've got a local hard drive sitting there. I've got Crash Plan managing stuff elsewhere. Let's see.
I mean, I free NAS to it, the free stuff. So Google Photos backup. Everything's in the Amazon cloud for music. So if something were to happen, it would be a royal pain, but I would have it.
Yeah, that's basically how mine works. Let's see. How about a fun one? A fun one to end by. What weapon will we use when the world falls into mass anarchy after the Internet of Things destroys the power grid?
I don't know. Are guns allowed?
Yeah, I guess guns are allowed.
I really, really like landmines. Anytime somebody says holds the Second Amendment in front of me, I ask them about landmines, and they tell me that's not part of the Second Amendment. So I feel like I caught them in a truth fallacy, and I say, I just want even the sign. I want people to believe that I have a landmine in front of my house. I don't even want it. I really don't. I just want the sign with a little LED that blinks once a second.
If I'm going for a realistic answer, I've got a baseball bat that I have access to. If I'm going for like the style points answer, I'm thinking flamethrower. Nothing's quite as scary as a flamethrower.
You could do the drone. You can do the 9mm on the drone.
Yes, that would be cool.
I mean, if you really want to go style,
the DJI Phantom Glock.
So, anyway, I mean that's really it for us. I mean, we can go into another time of all the nitty gritty, but basically, you want to do a podcast, set up the recording. We love Hangouts. Record your own, either stitch it together. Hangouts audio is fine. Find a way to host it. I mean, you could put it in Dropbox and just share the link if you want. I mean,
there's lots of hosting stuff out there like Rackspace, Amazon S3. You could host it on Dropbox or Drive. Everywhere it's got free links available.
Just don't spend money unless you know exactly what you're doing. Don't go all in and I need the best mic, I need the best software, I need the best computer, I need the best thing. Just start off free, see what you need, see what audience you can get, and then go from there.
Yeah, podcasts started and remain a pretty scrappy segment of technology. You can get away with very little bit.
And we'll go from there. Anyway, we are way over, so we will leave it there. And any other questions, remember, we have a WhatsApp group. Just find us, just message us, tweet us, whatever. We don't want the spam, so you got to find us, and we'll put you right in. Anyway, we'll see everyone next week, and I hope you have a good rest of the week. Bye.
See you, everyone.
Okay, stop.